with us. We are very pleased to have among us Mr. Saurabh, who has more than 14 years of experience in concept and product sale of high-ticket solutions in B2B and B2C space. He is a proactive leader and planner with expertise in techno-commercials and management. He is presently working as senior manager with Xebia. We also have with us speakers of the day, Mr. Ananda, who is an IT professional with 13 years of experience, having expertise in artificial intelligence engineering, machine learning algorithms, implementation and design, develop and deployment of full stack solutions involving 3 layers of architects. He is pleasantly working with Xebia as a principal consultant. We are also honored to have among us Mr. Gopal Das, who is a qualified corporate trainer for DevOps and cloud technologies, having more than 17 years of experience in development DevOps technology like AWS. Till date, Sir has trained more than 500 corporate trainers for JP Morgan, Citibank, Development Bank of Singapore, and United Healthcare. I welcome you all in today's webinar. Now I would request Mr. Saurabh to briefly introduce about Xebia. Thank you.
Thanks, Nidhi. So I'll just share my screen. Just let me know once you're able to see my screen.
Yes, it is visible.
All right. So good evening to all the students who are looking forward for starting their career in engineering into the areas of technology and everything. Now, before we start with Xebia, one of the major questions which I have across for all these students is uh, there are a couple of points which we want to start you with. So one of the points is why BTech, right? Why are you going for a BTech program? Uh, Definitely, that's a question which you need to answer to yourself before you get into any of the entire thing. And once you have question on that, the second question is what kind of BTech program are you looking at? So one is that you said, no, I want to become an engineer. Definitely, yes. But what kind of engineer and why you want to get into engineering, what programs you want to choose, that's most of the important thing, which is definitely going to be something which you need to answer. Now, I will just give you a background of what Xebia is, what details we do, and everything on that part. So Xebia is a company which is based out of Netherlands. We are a 14-year-old company. We are primarily a IT consultancy, wherein we are working with the top names, the Forbes 500 companies across the world. Uh, Xebia started its journey into universities around 5 years back when we were looking to hire students. And when we went across to universities to hire students, we realized that computer science students which we were taking were not up to the mark. Now, when I say not up to the mark, I'm not saying that the university has not been able to give them the right knowledge. What I'm saying is that the industry requirements have changed. We are looking for people who have a understanding of certain technologies, who have understanding of certain natures, who can come into the field and start working. So those things were missing. So that's the reason why we tied up with the universities and we wanted to go ahead with them. So that's the reason why Xebia Academy program started. I'll just give you a brief about Xebia on that. So Xebia is a combination of around 7 companies, which is primarily into various technologies from you name it. So you talk about AIML, yes, we are there. You talk about full stack, we are there. We talk about the data science, you talk about cloud, we talk about consulting, software development. That's all what Xebia does, and we have been doing it successfully for last 14 years. Uh, the the spread of the company, we are pan world. We have offices in US, Europe, again Netherlands. We have offices in 3 offices in India, which is Pune, Bangalore, and Gurgaon, and then we have offices in the Pacific region of Singapore. We have offices in UAE and then Australia and every other places on that part. So what the question is, and that's one question is, uh, why are we tying up with universities, right? Apart from teaching about what technologies are there to be talked about, we also have something called a center of excellence. Now, uh, most of you have gone through your schools, and you said, I'm passing out from mathematics, I'm passing out from biology, I'm passing out from this field. Now, those areas on which your students or your schools excel, that's called a center of excellence. We, in the same way, create center of excellence within the university. So, for example, Modernization University, we have a center of excellence in terms of AIML and in terms of DevOps. So, one talks primarily in terms of new technologies, the other talks primarily about software development in total. So, I have Ananda and Gopal who will talk about in detail, but just wanted to give you understanding of what center of excellence is and how does it works. So, this is a glimpse of Xebia office as in Gurgaon. So what happens is once you complete your 4-year program, so within the 4-year program which you're doing with MRU, you are going to work, you're going to study at the same time you're going to work on multiple projects, which are some of them are coming from Xebia. And at the end of your program, you are also given opportunities to work with Xebia or any of our partner companies, right? So that's the major reason why you should be taking up any program. One of the reasons is again placements. Obviously, my first and foremost question is that if I'm taking engineering, am I going to get a job, and am I going to get a job of around close to around 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs? Is that what I'm looking at? Because I'm spending a good amount of money into the engineering program. So that's where it is being answered, that we take care of your internships, we take care of your placements while you're working along with that, right? So what happens when you take up a program with Xavier, right? You are going to study your BTech program in MRU, and while you're studying your program, you're given certain privileges from Xebia. So you have a learning management system, which is a LMS, which basically takes you through your entire curriculum, your learning and everything, while your faculties of the university are going to handhold you to take it across. You get industry projects from our side. So we give you the projects across in your semesters. You have the assessments and evaluations coming from our side, and then you have internships and jobs which are going to come from our side, right? So this is how our digital learning LMS looks like from Xebia, wherein how does it works across, right? And we would give you a understanding of that also in the later on phase, right? So this is one of the most critical thing which we wanted to talk about while you are here as a student, and if your parents are here, or any of the regions, any of the people out here. This is your journey with Xebia. How does it looks like? So Xebia is primarily working in the areas of computer development and software development and AI and ML. And one of the core reasons of why we are working with universities is that we want to have invention and innovation coming into the picture. So this slide basically talks about uh, what all you get while you're taking a program with Xebia. So Xebia Innovation Lab is what we have in the university, which actually gives you an area to start working on your internships, on your projects, and your working. So while in the 4 years of your engineering, you are doing your program as a regular student, at the same time, you're also given an idea how does it works in the industry. You are given understanding of how we work in Xebia, for example, agile classes. So you will have agile classes in your university, which will basically talk about how does it works in the company, how does people collaborate and everything on that part. While you are within the university, so there are multiple programs on which Xebia works with. So this is called Campus Ambassador Program. So once you join the university, you have a batch completed. Two of you are taken as a campus ambassadors for a semester. And what we want to do is we want to definitely take as many students as possible into Campus Ambassador Program. So basically, these students are going to run the Xebia working methodology with other students. We will be talking about debates. We will be talking about various areas. So, like for example, Zthon. So, Zthon is basically a hackathon which is done along with Xebia students. Recently, we had done it once we talking to certain students from Xebia, or you are able to talk to certain faculties. You will be able to talk about Zthon in detail. Then you have a newsletter which comes across, which is on every quarter, and which talks about the entire Xebia methodology and everything, conclaves, the extent. So that is all there. Uh, what programs are we running with the university? So there are basically two programs which we're running with the university. We have a Bachelor of Technology, which is Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning. So in this, the entire technology part is being taken care by Xebia. And the other program which we have is Bachelor's Technology, which is for DevOps and the development cycle, which is talked about software engineering and everything on that part. These are the two programs which we work, and this will be talked in detail by Ananda and Gopal while they are going to take it across. So this is in just talking about Xebia, what we do, what we are there for, and everything. If there's any questions you have, you can definitely ask me, and then I'll pass it on across to Ananda and Gopal to talk about the individual technologies. Does
Thank you,
anybody?
Saurabh. Yeah. Thank you, Saurabh. Now I would request, like, we can start with our discussion. And for that, I would request our panelists to be here. And it's generally seen that, in the present time, there is a paradigm shift in technology and people are moving beyond that. And also it is evident that, industry is demanding innovation. So just I want to hear from you, Mr. Ananda, or maybe Gopal Das, sir, if you could enlighten us, like how these technologies like DevOps and AIML are changing that landscape.
So, Mr. Gopal, you want to go ahead?
The you start, then I'll.
Okay, no problem. So, Niti, I'm so sorry. Could you please repeat the question?
Yeah, sure, sure. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are. Please go
Okay.
ahead.
So yeah, so I just want to understand that in the present time, we could see that there is a paradigm shift in technologies and people are moving beyond that. It is also seen that, industries in demanding innovation. So how do we see like technologies like DevOps and AIML changing that landscape in terms of, how it was before and, how it is contrasted in present times?
Okay, okay. Thanks for asking that very, Niti. So, friends, very warm welcome to these presentations. And so the questions from Niti, okay, it's a very relevant questions that why you should learn DevOps and why you should learn AIML. So Mr. Gopal will tell you about the relevance of DevOps in today's world. I can discuss with you something about AIML, why you need to know about AIML. Well, I think I may share my screen for that, just to give some.
Sure, sure, you can.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
sure, right. So, friends, is my screen? I think it's visible now. Yeah.
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah. Thanks, Nitin. So, friends, I hope you are familiar with these images. These are basically from some science fiction movies. I think some of you, or maybe the most of you, will be able to respond to maybe. So these are the some images from science fiction movies. So, well, so essence is that the robotics is coming in a big way, and this again it's again a science fiction, but it is coming very realistic way, and so though this is a science fictions, these are prevalent in today's world. So self-driving car, you guys are well aware of that. Google is coming. It's already there. So they're from Tesla as well, and as well as the face recognitions. I think most of the smartphones now have this. So all these are the technologies of AI ML which are coming together now. But why again? So what it means is that in today's world, the AI MLs are a lot of everywhere. So, for example, this face recognition is one example. Another example, I mean, if you have check your email, there is a email spam. Okay, how does it work? That's an example of AI ML. If you use Google Map, okay, how it is able to tell you the shortest distance in spite of busy traffic. Okay, there is an example of applications of AI/ML. So if you see closely, the AI/ML has become quite relevant, and the applications of AI and MLs are everywhere. Okay, and the reason the AI/ML has coming to this world so much, there are of course the reasons for that. There are two basically reasons. Okay, one is chip computation power, and another is the more and more data. So just before I go forward, so Nitya, how much time do I have for that?
Yes, you can take it.
Okay, so two things I mentioned, right? So one is a cheap data, another is a cheap computation power. Now, as you guys are aware of, that we have more and more data present in today's world compared to what has been there in maybe the past decade. Okay, and the one thing is that presence of data, but how are we able to access the data? How are we able to process the data? So for that we need the computation power, and again, if the computation power is very expensive, only the maybe the militaries and only the big companies are able to use that. But the thing is that the computation power as well as the cheap storage has become quite prevalent, and that is why uh, the applications of AI ML and AI ML, the way we see it, that has come to the forefront. And now, if you see closely, I mean, Shora was also pointed to these things that earlier days, even when the time I passed engineering, so there are a lot of subjects we need to know. So those subjects are still relevant. Okay, but the automations, okay, and the machine learning, these are coming into big way. Okay, and this relevance of these subjects, as you can see, it's everywhere. It's all the applications, as you can see, and it is not going to stop there. It is just going to expand and expand more. Okay, and if you guys are taking an interest of AIML, so please reach out to me. I can definitely help you out. So there are a lot of things going on, and with this why you should learn AIML is that there are the applications of AIML, as I mentioned, and there are different job prospects of AIML, which are there and which will be there, as you can see, as this slide presents, that the growth of data in this century. So that's what I was talking about. In 2010, maybe around one zettabyte of data. So now we are in the 2021. So you can see around 50 zettabyte, and it will, within a span of 4 years, it will expand up to 175 zettabytes. So these are the amount of data explosions we can see, and along with that, how much data we are going to use. Okay, so the data explosion is one thing, but how much data we are going to use, and that is why the importance of AIML. And there are different profiles of AIML, which you can definitely take up to help this growth. Okay, and you can be an AIML practitioner as well. So that's all about the why you should take AIML. The
Yeah.
answer is yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ananda sir. Like it's very easy to now comprehend what artificial intelligence means, and to understand that concept. So you have beautifully covered all those aspects. Thank you for that. So now my question is to Mr. Gopal Das sir. Sir, if you could enlighten us, like what can we understand with the term DevOps? Is it as complicated as it sounds? So yeah.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. This is Gopal. When we talk about DevOps, it is a combination of plenty of things. Like the whole IT landscape in the organization has been changed. When I say IT landscape has been changed, like people are moving to cloud, people are moving for apps, people are moving to DevOps. So when I say why people are moving to cloud, cloud means nothing. It's like a service provider from where now, the pandemic situation is going on. Nobody goes to the office anymore. Everyone works from home. And I trained almost most of the corporate on DevOps technologies. I helped them migrate their environment to the cloud also. The reason behind why this type of migration is going on, because for the next, I don't think, few years, people cannot go to the offices and do the work. But because of cloud, what happened is that you can access the environment from anywhere in the world and you can deploy your application. Nowadays, it's not like that. Most of the sector, you have seen that there is a downgrade going on. But IT sector, there is no downgrade. The reason behind, you cannot go to the office if any server goes down and make it up, because we know that lockdown is going on. But because of cloud, there is a huge advantage. If you are sitting in home also, you just need to log into the cloud environment like Amazon or Azure or Google Cloud, any of the cloud, and you can make your environment up and running. If there is any changes in the application also, you can easily do it. Now, when we talk about DevOps, the reason behind why, if I tell you about cloud, like 80% of the workload has moved to the cloud, and there is a portability available. And when we talk about DevOps, the reason behind why Dev and Ops, when we talk about DevOps means development and operation is there. Like application transformation is going on. When I say application transformation, um, it's something like going from monolithical to microservice. When I say monolithical, means it's like a book. You have an history book, okay, where everything has been tightly integrated together. So in your history book, if everything is being tightly integrated together, means previously if the people who's developing the application, like you order something from Amazon, so once you order it and finally you go for the payment and it failed. Like you have seen the architecture, like first time when when I talk about first time when this Flipkart has come up with a sale, within 3 hours the whole application has gone down. Amazon understand that concept, that if I have announced a sale and people are accessing my application and my application goes down immediately, what will happen? Next time, you will hardly find a customer accessing your application. This is one of the biggest challenge because of monolithical architecture, which is like an all the application, like from ordering, from payment gateway, everything has been tightly integrated together. Now, what they have done is, in simple term, when we talk about DevOps, they they break down the application, means all the modules are being break down into smaller pieces. When I say smaller pieces, like you are ordering something, that will be one module. You are doing a payment or dispatch internally, everything will be a different modules. And when you break down your application into smaller pieces, they are like very smaller quantity of code. If there is any error in the code, you can immediately rectify it. You can immediately rectify it. That is the biggest transformation going on in the application side. And when I am talking about this application transformation, you need to remember that there is a huge scope in the industry, because all the application has been built using monolithical architecture for the past decades. But nowadays, to make it a microservice, all the application transformation is going on. The simplest example, like past 1 year back, we are working on a project with an IBM for SBI internet banking. Like in banking industry, you have seen that every time there is a failure. Every time there is a failure, it goes on maintenance. And you know, SBI is a huge bank. So if that is a huge bank and so many people are accessing it, now your application goes down. Okay. Nowadays, customer do not complain, government complain. Like if you have read a news about SDFC a few months back, their whole internet banking, like government is going for digitalization and you shut down your banking system. So what they have done is they told this banking industry that you make your application highly available. There should be no downtime. When government want to go for digitalization and you are shutting down the application, what is the use? So they are making it microservices where the failure will be little. But how? Now there is a challenge. The challenge is, one thing is, there is no coordination between developer and IT operation previously. Like when I talk about there is no coordination between developer and IT operation, simply it is like that the developer is sitting in a very fancy office, IT operation team sitting in a some basement or anywhere in the world. Okay. And they hardly bothered about what is going on in the application side. Okay. They will, once the developer give the application, they will say that whenever they get time, they will deploy it. But because of microservices, when you break down your application into smaller pieces, plenty of changes are going on. And if there is so many changes, and nowadays, like you see, like if you do some shopping from e-commerce site like Amazon, you can see that their portal is changing frequently. Like Amazon do 8 times change in a day. Smaller changes, but it is happening. But when they are making changes in the application, it should not, while deployment, and if you are accessing it, it should not fail. So they want a proper coordination between developer and IT team. So nowadays, whenever an application has been built, the team comprises of developer and IT operation. When I say IT operation, it will be include of system admin, storage admin, database admin. So that is the reason DevOps has come into picture. But now it has been gone one step further also. That is DevSecOps, where developer, security, and operation team has been also integrated together. The reason behind your building an application, security is also a concern. When you make frequent changes and if security is not there, what is the use? Your application, you deploy an application and it get hacked in the market. No use. So development, security, and operation, all three of them are working together. And there is a huge scope in the market because of frequent changes in the application and microservices. Most of the application in next 5 to 10 years will be converted into microservices. That is called as DevOps. Yeah.
Thank you, Gopal, sir. I think it's no more sounds that much complicated after hearing from you. So now my question is to Ananda, sir. Sir, could you please, tell us some interesting aspects of AI, or maybe like you can highlight about application in nowadays. So would you like to address that?
Yeah, sure. So when you ask me about, okay, I'm sharing my screen. Okay. So yes. So interesting aspects about AI are the applications. We see AI and ML. Around us. So one is the robotics. There can be self-driving car, face recognition, which I just mentioned. Other than that, if you find applications of AI, all these sectors. So I'll give you an example of each one of these. So for example, chatbot. So you go to a website. For example, you go to a website of say an educational technology educational provider. So for educational provider, I just don't want to name them, but once you visit their website or any banking website, for example, you can go to a banking website of HDFC. They have a chatbot called Eva. So it is similar. You have similar chatbot for other banking websites, maybe some other services provider. For example, some reality websites also. So chatbot is another one interesting example of AI. If you assume that there is a human sitting across the computer and responding to your questions, you may be mistaken. A human is maybe there, but definitely not to your 5 or 6 questions, or fast to your 5 or 6 questions. So if you follow the question pattern, okay, it is asking you what is your name, age, gender, and then what is your requirement, and then it is going to more specialized way, and then it's giving you the responses. So chatbot is one example of AI, and it is using the text classification, natural language processing, behind that. This one, self-driving car. You can understand very well, right? So you can drive the car, and what happens that you want the car to be driven by a machine. And imagine in a busy Indian road, a machine is driving the car, and there no one is maintaining any discipline, and just shouting everywhere, and the car is able to be driven at an optimum speed, not hitting anyone. So that is what the self-driving car. And maybe that is why it will take some time to have this car in India, and where it is there in some US or some developed country. Product recommendations. So if you go to any website called Amazon, or if you have nowadays everyone use apps, so Amazon apps, or if you see the Netflix, it's a movie recommendations or the product recommendations. So if you buy a similar product, okay, it recommends you a similar product, or it may happen that you have a the if you have not bought any product, but a person similar to you bought this product, then if there are number of persons bought the same product, it will be recommended to you. So that's an example of recommendations, product recommendations. So you have to understand why it's being recommended. The sole purpose of this recommendation is, at least if it is recommended you 10 products, if you able to purchase one, that is where the business is getting benefited. Commute estimation. Yeah, Google Map is one very good example that you must have used it. I think most of you, right? So if you have busy traffic also, it is able to tell you the shortest, the distance which it takes you the shortest time. How it's able to do that. Satellite is one thing, but using the traffic, and also it estimates how much traffic it will be after 1 hour, not when you are just starting. Fraud detection. Fraud detection, it's very important for banking and finance sector. That there can be a credit card fraud detection, there may be a fraud detection from internet. So nowadays, when most of us are using internet for banking, the fraud detection is very important to understand, and how it's able to prevent the fraud in banking. Face recognitions, of course, this is one of the examples of AI in biometric, right? You can access your system using password, you can access your system through fingerprint, or you can do that using face recognitions. So these are the interesting applications of AI. And I can tell you that some of these examples are not as difficult as it sounds to build. Okay, even I have built, not maybe the one which Google may be using, but the face recognitions one I have already built. Even the product recommendations also, that is smaller scale I have built. So it's not that difficult. So if you learn AIML, you also will be able to do that, build these applications. Also, if you, I was talking about the what are the different job profiles of AIML. So nowadays there can be different job profiles. So these are the different job profiles of AIML. So which are there and which the and it will be there in a more quantity in the future. So if you learn AIML and if you have an active interest, so you can very easily take up any of this job.
Thank you, Ananda sir. It makes me think like, AIML is all present around me. Like when we're talking about Netflix or maybe like few things that those elements are, really we are using it in everyday life now. So thank you, sir. Now my question is to Gopal sir. So could you please enlighten us with your DevOps journey so that we are able to understand, how DevOps could be beneficial within Indian frame. And Ananda sir, may I request you to stop sharing the screen? Thank you.
Done.
Yeah. Gopal sir. Gopal sir, am I audible?
Yeah, sorry, I'm in mute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when
could
we
you
talk
please share?
yeah, it is my screen, application modernization. Okay. So when we talk about DevOps journey, it's like continuous integration and continuous delivery. When I talk about continuous integration, continuous delivery, previously when the software has been developed, like now also once you start developing smaller applications, okay, previously what happened, you develop your application. Once you develop it, okay, the next step comes is you need to compile so that an exe executable file will be created which can be run and customer can understand. Okay, now when I talk to you about that application transformation where we break down our application into smaller pieces, like you can see it, this is a monolithical architecture. So if anything happened to this application, I have to shut down the whole app, recreate it, and recompile it, and then deploy it. But because of microservices, every application is running into smaller pieces. When I say every application is running into smaller pieces, so it is not like that. Previously, like when we developed the application, one single language has been used for developing your application, like Java, or mostly it is Java only. But nowadays, when you create a microservice, which will be independent service, everyone will have an independent. Everyone will have an independent. When I say everyone will be having an independent identity, like our Aadhaar card, everyone has a unique Aadhaar card number. Similar to that, okay. When you develop an application, it will be, we can use multiple languages. When I say you can use multiple languages, like AI and machine learning on DevOps will be built using Python. The GUI interface, you are seeing it, will be used using a different language, Node.js or React.js. Backend will be an database. It can be an SQL or a NoSQL databases. So to build your application, as a DevOps model, you can use multiple languages. Nowadays, it is not like that. You will use one single language which will be applied. And once you build your application, you put it in a version control system, and it will be automatically the testing, the deployment on a different environment, like it may be cloud, it may be on physical hardware, or it may be on a containerized based platform, will be done by immediately. It will be done by immediately all this testing will be automated. There will be no manual tester jobs nowadays. Everything will be automated and deployment happens smoothly. So whenever you make changes on the application, it will be automatically compiled. And you need to remember that multiple languages. So your job scope is there in the market. The main thing is when you move to DevOps, huge plenty of opportunity for jobs. The reason behind thousands of applications are there which is need to be modernized. Your job, if you are in the DevOps field and you understand how the application development scenario works nowadays by learning few of these tools, which is already an open source, not an proprietary application, okay, and being used by all the organization, okay. So once you learn this technology, the biggest benefit you will get is you can easily automate the application deployment. Now, in DevOps, there is a new technology has been come called as containerization. When we talk about containerization, means on top of one single server, I can run multiple containers. Like Ananda has given you an example of Netflix. So when we talk about streaming media, okay, when we talk about streaming media, so it is one of the biggest consumption of your data. Like you people are doing recharge every day, 2 GB of data by watching those small clip on Facebook or YouTube or anything. You finish up your data within 3 to 4 hours. Is it right? But around 4 years back, those data you are watching it, okay, you got buffering, but nowadays everything is smooth. You watch Netflix, smoothly you can watch it. You watch Prime, smoothly it is watching. You open YouTube with little bandwidth also, you can see your movies, pictures and everything, because they are one part of DevOps that is coming from a container based technologies. Kubernetes, we called it. Even you are accessing your Gmail also, it comes from containers. It is also part of DevOps. And what I especially want to tell you, like I take induction batches from Citibank, from Barclays, from Development Bank of Singapore, from HCL also, like from August when the placement, by June, July, all the fresher get absorbed in the company. They go through a fresher training where we teach this DevOps in around 5 days. We do an training on that. After doing the training, they get absorbed in the job, okay, and they get a timeline of around 1 year to work on different DevOps project in the organization. But from 150 people, at the end, around 20 people survive because either they are being trained on DevOps or they are very smart. That is the two reason, okay? Because survival means they give you a chance of 1 year. Then within 1 year also, if you cannot learn, it is very difficult to survive in the organization. So we train you people from the day one so that you can survive in the industry for longer duration, because nowadays no one is waiting for application development. Immediately it should happen. When I say immediately, means every organization works on something called a sprint. When I say sprint, if you get a smaller issue, you have to finish it in 1 day. If you got an complex issue, you need to, not complex, it's like a medium issue, you have to finish it in 1 week. If it is a complex, within 21. That way, 1, 7, 14 and 21, like that, every organization runs on sprint. If it is running on sprint, that way, at the month end, they can calculate your working capacity. And according to that, you get growth in your company, you got perks and everything, okay? But if you have a good knowledge on DevOps, it will be easier for you to go further, okay? Because last week only I'm doing training with IBM. Mostly I do training with the corporates. People are there with 10 years of experience. They are 10 years of experience, and when I check the knowledge on DevOps, they are nothing. But they have to upgrade. There is no other issue. Okay.
Okay,
Only
thank
thing is
you,
update.
Gopal.
Thank you. Yeah, good.
Thank you, Gopal sir. Like, it gives me a curiosity, and, I've become curious to understand that, what are the key competencies that would be required to become a successful engineer in the current emerging tech world. It's a very general question that I want to, understand in these terms. Like, is there any specific competency that is, required in industry? And maybe I can, we can hear from Anand sir first. Yeah.
Okay, right. So it's a very generic questions. So how to be a successful engineer? Okay, so I have around 13 years of experience. So what I have observed, okay, in my experience, to be a successful engineer. So you need to have, the mindset of an engineer. When I say engineering mindset, what is an engineering mindset? An engineering mindset is that, the whatever you see in your, around you, okay, it may be a small work, okay, it may be a small work, not maybe not related to your work, or may not be related to your study, but it may involve some engineering things, okay. Please, go on there, make your hands dirty, try to learn how the way things are working. Some of you may have vehicle, the two-wheeler vehicles, or maybe the four-wheeler vehicle. Even the, the way the vehicle operates, that also a mechanical engineer, that's also not very simple to understand, okay. So the things like that, it's all around us. Also, I mean, there is a beautiful website I used to visit, when I was, maybe at your age, the how stuff work. How stuff work, it gives you an opportunity to know how different things work. Now the Google, I need to search anything, I go and search Google, and the way, the Google will give me an answer. But do we really want to think how Google operates? How Google is able to operate, give you the most relevant answer in a, mini microseconds. That's just one example. Another example is the translations. Again, it's a Google translation, but there may be a translation maybe from Microsoft, Amazon. It is able to translate your language to some other things, okay. But how does it, happen? How does it happen in the background? These are examples of AIML. There may be a very complex, but there may be, it is able to explain you the things in a simplified manner. Okay, some of you may have access to Alexa, or maybe the voice recording Siri, Apple Siri, in your mobile. So if you say something, it will just respond to you. Okay, just try to know how the things how the things operate. So there are a lot of things maybe around us. Okay, some of these things are complex, I'm not denying that, but some of things are simple. But we need to have that mindset. We need to really have that mindset that I have to know that how these things operate. Okay, uh, it's okay to know that after A it goes to B, but is there a different way to go to from A to B, or is there any other way, or the most optimum way to go to from A to B? So that mindset from what I think is the most important one to be a successful engineer.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Ananda sir. Also, now the floor is open for the question and answers. So I would request students to put their questions in the chat box. Also, I would take a moment to introduce Professor Hanu Bharadwaj, who is HOD Computer Science and Technology at Manav Rachna University, and Dr. Jyoti, who is Professor and Associate Head at Manav Rachna University. So even if you have any specific questions with respect to university or department, we would be glad to address them. So we
Maybe
already
I'll
have one
just take a
question
minute.
in the chat box. Yeah, sorry.
I'll just take a minute. There's a question which was for BCA and BTech, right?
Yes, yes, I was about to ask. Sort of, if you could
Right.
answer that.
So
Yeah.
if you look at closely, BCA program is primarily a bachelor's program, which gives you an overall understanding of a subject. So mostly, if you are looking at AI, and it's not saying that they are any different in terms of that, but yes, there's a huge difference in terms of a BCA and a BTech. The first preference for any IT company is normally to look at a BTech student, right? Primarily for the reason that they have gone in depth with the technology, they have gone in working on that. Uh, BCA, on the other hand, is taken for example that BCA, the student would have a basic knowledge, but again, they would have to get into more detailed knowledge about a subject and then move forward. So BCA, MCA comes together, but BTech normally is taken in consideration that a student with BTech is equivalent to what a BCA, MCA together would be, right? So that hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, thank you, Saurabh. Also, as I could see, like people are now tending to observe, AIML around us in, through this session. So, Ananda sir, if you could explain more about artificial intelligence, though we are able to see in our vicinity that it is around us, but more specific in the terms. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, Niti. But before that, I think there was one more questions for AIML that could you explain more about what is ML
Its
and about
application.
its applications? Okay, a question for
Yes.
Mr. Rohan Nair. Okay, let me respond to that. What is ML? Okay, let's yeah, just a second. Again, let me share my screen for that. My screen is not visible, right? Just a second. Uh, I hope my screen is visible, Niti. Can you confirm, please? Hello.
Yes, it is visible. Yeah.
Okay. So what is ML, right? So ML, as we know, right? ML is machine learning. But to know what is machine learning, let's understand what is artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is when uh, to understand artificial intelligence, you need to know the understanding of the intelligence of humans. Or when say human, it's not maybe the human, maybe any other living entity. You know, maybe chimpanzee, maybe the dogs. Okay, any other living entity. When I say that we need to understand artificial intelligence, we need to understand how we can build a system which will mimic the intelligence of the any living entity or maybe the humans. Okay, so that is what an artificial intelligence is. And machine learning, it's just a subset. It's a subset, as I rightly mentioned in the diagram. It is, there's some techniques. Okay, through the technique you need to train your systems or train your machines by which it will learn from data, okay, without being explicitly programmed to do so. So to understand what is that, I'll give you some more example here. So there is a traditional programming, traditional software programming, right? So if you, any of you go through any programming language, so what it essentially does, you essentially builds a logic, okay? And that logic, what it does, okay, it does the computations and you send an input to the program, okay? So input and program, and it does a computation, it will give you a results. So you are, or when you say you or we are writing that program and we know exactly the way it will be computed, okay? And there will not be a different way to compute that. The fundamental difference between traditional software engineering and the machine learning is that this computation thing. In machine learning, we are not writing the program. As you can see, we are not exactly writing the program to direct the flow of the program to produce the output. Okay, what happens in machine learning? Machine learning programming is considered to be really complex. Okay, and even something which humans are not expected to code. So then how do we develop such a model? So how do we develop such a program? We send lot of data. When you say lot of data, we say lot of input and we say lot of desired results, so the output. Okay, and so there is a machine which has a lot of input and lot of output. Okay, and by following the input and output, the pattern of output and input, for a specific input, say x1, how the desired output is y1. For x2, it is a y2. By following a number of the data point like that, the machine learning, what it does, it understands and it develops a model on its own. Okay, very simplistically, This is the fundamental difference between machine learning and traditional software engineering, and this is the difference of machine learning. That when we are, asking a machines or developing a machines to build a program, okay, but we are not actually programming that. The machines is doing that programming on its own, okay. But of course, there are different things. Then what is the reason for the data science and machine learning engineer? So there are tweaking to make these programs perfect. But this is the what I know. We are not actually doing the programming. Machine is doing the programming on its own from the data. I hope the response is clear here. The
Yes,
first
yes.
questions.
Thank you
And
so
there
much,
is
sir.
another questions, Niti. So what was that?
So yeah, that was around AI.
Okay. I think could you explain more about AI? So I have mentioned this is about AI and this is about ML. So if you can tell me, ask any specific thing, I'll be able to respond, because there are a lot of things I can go on. But in the interest of time, I would request be specific about that questions, please.
Yeah. And yeah, since we are, running short of time, so I can take one last question. And Gopal sir, if you could answer that, what is the scope of DevOps? So if you could put some light on that.
When we talk about scope of DevOps, means everywhere you can find DevOps. Okay. In machine learning and artificial intelligence, DevOps plays an important role. Like nowadays, you have seen WhatsApp. So people have started with WhatsApp business. So in WhatsApp business, like you buy a product, okay, they immediately, and you give the number, they immediately, like recently I buy an Samsung air conditioner. So once I buy that Samsung air conditioner, so they made the invoice and everything and put my phone number. And later on, I got an WhatsApp message that you want to book a complaint, just press 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. There also DevOps is there, because the development and operation teams has been working together with the AI and ML team to build that. Not only that, if you have seen the biggest example of DevOps, you can find it on the streaming platform. Netflix is there, YouTube is there, everywhere DevOps is there. Nowadays, the whole industry has moved to DevOps platform, where development and operation teams working together, means you will be like a site reliability engineer who help to build an application, but not an downgraded application, a quality app. Okay, whenever you do a deployment of application, it should be quality application. Okay, that is the thing in DevOps. Okay, everywhere you think about any application nowadays, you can see that DevOps is there, nothing else. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So I, Niti, on behalf of Xebia, extend my sincere thanks to Mr. Ananda sir and Mr. Gopal sir, the speakers for the day, for enlightening us. And also I would take a moment to thank Saurabh for telling us and enlightening with Xebia. And I must mention my deep sense of appreciation to both the speakers. I wish to express my sincere gratitude to Manav Rachna University, and also special thanks to Professor Hanu Bharadwaj and Dr. Jyoti. And I wish all the very best to all our participants, and thank you for staying with us. I hope you stay healthy and safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Niti. Thank you all. Good evening.
Thank you.